If you have kids, you've seen this happen. They melt down over a toy that was perfectly fine an hour ago, or they cry at a green grape that they asked for. And you watch it and you think there is no possible way this is about that grape. The kid doesn't even know what's wrong with them. They just know everything feels harder. And 9 times out of 10, it's either they missed a nap or slept poorly the night before, which of course has nothing to do with that green grape. Here's what nobody tells us about being an adult. We're all still doing this. Last Tuesday you snapped at someone, or you couldn't focus and the day felt twice as long as it should have. Or a normal email made you angrier than the email merited. And you blamed the someone, or the day, the email, instead of just asking the essential question. Did I just not get enough sleep? That's the trap. The kid doesn't know what's wrong, and neither do we. The self-awareness gap really hasn't improved much since childhood. We've just gotten better at hiding it from ourselves. And at its heart, we're all just running adult versions of an infant's temper tantrum when we miss our sleep. Closing that gap is what this video is all about. Sleep is the variable most of us are short on and don't have the wherewithal to notice. And by the end of the next half hour or so, you're gonna know exactly what to change tonight and why. I'm Brent, 50 years old, 25 years in healthcare as a senior executive and CEO, father of a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and married to my favorite person on earth. I've been what you might call a biohacker since I was a teenager, which is 3+ decades of trying things on myself, learning what works for me, occasionally being wrong about what I was sure of, and slowly getting better at it. Before we go any further, I want to say clearly I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice, and everything I'm about to walk through is what I've seen, what I've tried, and what's worked for me. Take what you will, and talk to your doctor about the rest. Earlier in my career, I spent years in senior executive roles at a large global healthcare company. I was very career-focused and successful, and 200 nights a year in a hotel room in cities I sometimes couldn't even name when I woke up. I lived on jet lag and coffee that was sometimes wonderful and sometimes catastrophic, and sleep was the last thing I was paying attention to. Because of that, I figured a few things out. That's what I want to share with you. For most of my career, I had sleep exactly backwards. I thought of it as time wasted, hours I could have been working, learning, getting ahead, and the less I paid, the better. Now I know the opposite is true. Every hour you save hits back 5 times worse the next day. Worse decisions, shorter focus, less patience, food choices you wouldn't have made on a clean night, and a version of you the people closest to you wish they didn't have to put up with. The best days are the days I gave myself the grace to prioritize sleep first. The paper that finally changed my mind was published in 2003 in the Journal of Sleep. The experiment restricted people to 6 hours a night for 2 weeks while watching their cognitive function the whole time, and by the end, the 6-hour group had cognitive impairment equivalent to missing 2 full nights of sleep. Brain function comparable to someone who's been awake for 48 hours straight. And the line that stopped me cold? The participants didn't even realize it. They rated themselves as fine. The objective test said otherwise, and the gap between how they felt and how they actually performed widened the longer the restriction went on. Undersleep doesn't feel like undersleep. It feels like a normal day where everything is slightly harder. Multiply that by a decade, and the hours you thought you saved didn't go anywhere good. Most of what I'm walking through has Matthew Walker's fingerprints on it. His book, Why We Sleep, is the most important popular sleep book I've ever read, and I've read it more than once. The framework he laid out is the right framework. Sleep matters, we underallocate, and most of the population is living at some level of sleep deprivation, all of which is correct and well supported. However, when I cite Walker, I'm citing him for the framework, and when I cite specific studies, I am going to the actual papers and reading them myself rather than regurgitating somebody else's regurgitation. So what actually happens while you sleep? Sleep is 4 stages, cycling every 90 or so minutes, with 4 to 6 full cycles in a typical 8-hour window. Stage 1 is the moment of falling asleep, 5% of the night. You barely register it. Stage 2 is light sleep, roughly half your night, where sleep spindles fire and lock in routine memories. Stage 3 is deep sleep, about 20% of your night, concentrated in the first half, and this is where your brain literally washes itself out. There's a system in your brain called the glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance plumbing, and during sleep, the space between your brain cells expands by about 60% and the clearance rates climb. Beta amyloid and other metabolic junk get flushed out, and none of this happens during waking. Only deep sleep gets you there. Then there's REM. A quarter of your sleep, concentrated in the second half of the night. This is where the interesting work happens. REM is when you dream, the vivid, story-shaped dreams you might actually remember, and it's also when you consolidate skills, process emotion, and make the creative connections you couldn't quite finish during the day. The cycles shift composition as the night goes on. Cycle 1 is deep sleep, heavy. Cycle 5 is almost all REM. Early sleep is for your body, Late sleep is for your brain. Cut sleep short and you lose specific things in a specific order. Wake at 5 a.m. instead of 7, you might lose your REM. Skip the front end of the night and you lose deep sleep. The old folk wisdom about an hour before midnight being worth 2 after has a kernel of truth. Not because the clock matters, but because the deep sleep heavy hours fall early for most morning-leaning chronotypes. One last corollary. Stop snoozing. Every snooze starts a new 90-minute cycle you won't finish, and you set yourself up to wake up mid-cycle 15 minutes later, the worst possible wake state. The first alarm should be the only alarm. Why does any of this matter at a scale that should make you actually do something? Well, 3 things: heart disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's. Heart disease first. A meta-analysis published in the European Heart Journal in 2011 pooled 15 studies covering 470,000 people and short sleepers, people regularly getting under 6 hours of sleep. In 2016, the American Heart Association made it official. Sleep is a cardiovascular risk factor, same institutional weight as blood pressure or cholesterol. A 2019 paper in the Journal of American College of Cardiology took it one step further using a technique called Mendelian randomization. People who were genetically predisposed to shorter sleep had a 20% higher heart attack risk rate. That's not associated with, that's causal. Now cancer. This one needs to be a little bit unbundled because 2 different claims often get fused together. The strong evidence is for night shift work specifically, where the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified shift work involving circadian disruption as a probable human carcinogen in 2010, and reaffirmed that classification in 2019. The breast cancer link in long-term night shift workers is the most established, and there's good evidence as well for prostate cancer in older men with sleep disruption too. So if you work night shifts long-term, the cancer risk is real. However, if you sleep on the lower end of normal, on a normal schedule, the cancer evidence is much thinner. Now for Alzheimer's. Remember the glymphatic clearance we talked about? Beta amyloid is one of the proteins getting cleared during sleep, and beta amyloid is the protein that accumulates in Alzheimer's. So the mechanism kinda writes itself. 2 strong correlation studies, JAMA Neurology and Sleep in 2013, showed worse self-reported sleep and more fragmented sleep both predicted higher amyloid burden and higher Alzheimer's risk in older adults. The mechanism is real, the correlation is real, but human causation isn't yet locked. Because there's a reverse causation concern, early stage Alzheimer's could also itself be disrupting the sleep. Strong enough to take sleep seriously as a long-term brain health move, not yet strong enough to promise dementia prevention. Those are the stakes. A quick note before we get to the protocol: sleep apnea. If you have it and it's untreated, nothing else in this video is going to help you because the whole protocol assumes your airway is actually working at night. I'll give you my 2. 1, doom scrolling while putting my kids to sleep. I'm sitting in the dark in my kids' room after putting them down. I can hear their rhythmic breathing. The lights are out, and what do? I pull out the phone, I scroll 10 minutes, sometimes 20. By the time I leave the room, my own wind down is shot. I've activated all the things that I was supposed to be settling. The kid's asleep, but I'm wide awake. Time on social media is not downtime, and there's no version of scrolling that's actually relaxing, no matter how it feels in the moment. I'd tell anyone else this was insane, and they'd tell me the same thing back, and yet we both keep doing it. The second is the squeeze. On any given day, I'm running 3 businesses to varying degrees. The day job, Harold, Dick, and Sage, plus whatever the latest fire is. And I've convinced myself, against all the evidence I'm about to walk through, that I can squeeze the extra work into nights and weekends. The belief is the single biggest thing wrecking my sleep because the squeeze isn't free. Every hour I steal from sleep, the next day takes back multiplied. I haven't broken myself with this one yet, but I am working on it. Alright, here's the protocol. I like to think about this protocol in 3 tiers: A, B, and C. The A tier is where 80% or more of the wins live. 4 moves that do most of the work, and if you do nothing else from this video, consider these 4. Most people skip the A tier and chase the C tier because it's easier to buy a red light than to keep a consistent nighttime routine. But the foundation is where the wins live, so here's the foundation first. Last caffeine by noon. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours, which means a cup at noon leaves you with a quarter to half the caffeine still circulating at bedtime. A controlled trial in 2013 found that even 6 hours before bed, a 400 milligram dose cost participants about an hour of total sleep time, and they didn't even realize it. This is one of the single biggest moves in the whole protocol, the one that does the most work for the least effort. It's free, it starts tomorrow, and if you do only one thing from this entire video, do this. 2. Bedroom temperature in the mid to upper 60s. Your body has to drop its core temperature about 2 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. And if the room is too warm, that drop never happens cleanly. Walker's number is 65, mine's about 68, and anywhere in that range works. The cardinal sin is sleeping in a room at 75 degrees or higher, or piling on so many blankets that your body's still cooking under there at midnight. Cool room, light sheets, and the body can do what it needs to do. Set the thermostat to night. it costs you nothing. 3. Same bedtime, same wake time, and 8-hour opportunity every day. A quick word on what 8 hours of sleep actually means. Walker's recommendation and mine is an 8-hour sleep, not necessarily 8 hours of measurable sleep. Real sleep time inside an 8-hour window is typically 6.5 to 7.5 hours for healthy adults. And the number that matters is the window. Give yourself the opportunity window every night at about the same time, and the actual sleep takes care of itself. Your circadian rhythm doesn't know it's Saturday. The system that runs your sleep is biological, not cultural, and it punishes you for the inconsistency you think is harmless. If you go to bed at 9:30 on weeknights and 12:30 on weekends, you've just given yourself the metabolic and cognitive equivalent of a small jet lag every Monday morning. Researchers call this social jet lag, and it has a measurable health cost. My window's about 9 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. 7 days a week. Same hours. The window itself doesn't matter. The consistency does. If you're a true night owl, your window shifts, but the discipline doesn't. Number 4, dark room. Blackout curtains if your room needs them. No bedside lamp, no bathroom light bleeding into the bedroom. Light exposure during the second half of the night affects melatonin and your circadian rhythm in ways you don't feel and don't notice. It's cheap to fix and has a real return. These 4, caffeine by noon, cool room, same window every day, dark. If these are in place, you've already done 80% of the work that this whole topic asks of you. The B tier. B tier is the next 15%. It's worth doing once A is locked, not before. First, alcohol. Even moderate alcohol suppresses REM and fragments your sleep in the second half of the night. It feels like it helps you fall asleep, and in the short term it does shorten sleep latency, but the catch is what happens after. I'm a moderate social drinker, eyes wide open about the trade. Even when I follow my own rules, 2 drinks, finish before 7, my Oura ring the next morning shows the cost. Heart rate up, more movement, REM and deep sleep both down. The body knows, and the data doesn't care about my rules. Be honest about what each drink is costing you. 2. Training timing. I do CrossFit in the evenings, which puts me 2 to 3 hours before bed. The ideal would be morning, but my calendar doesn't allow it. Some people are sensitive to evening training pushing sleep onset back. If you're one of them, you'll know within a week. Move the workout if you can, but don't skip it. Exercise is one of the core pillars, and trading one problem for another isn't a fix. 3. Magnesium glycinate. I take 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate at bedtime. A 2021 meta-analysis found a modest but reproducible benefit, and the glycinate form is better absorbed and easier on the stomach than the alternatives, with the glycine half of the molecule adding a small calming effect on its own. Transformative? No. But it is noticeable and worth trying. The rest of the supplement shelf gets treatment in the protocol PDF in the description. But here's the quick headlines. Melatonin works for jet lag and shift work, and most over-the-counter doses are way too high. Ashwagandha has a real anxiolytic effect, although it didn't move my sleep specifically. Tart cherry juice has modest evidence for sleep onset. L-theanine, phosphatidylserine, valerian root, lemon balm, 5-HTP, they all have small effects in some studies. None are the cheat code. If you only try one, try magglycinate. 4. Wind down. Phone in the closet. I keep my phone in a closet at night, not on the nightstand. The phone is the single biggest sleep wreckage device in modern life, and the only reliable way to defeat it is to make it physically harder to reach. Environment design beats willpower every time. 5. Meal timing. Avoid eating within 2 hours of bedtime, and if you can make lunch the big meal of the day instead of dinner, you'll be better off. The body wasn't designed to do active digestion while it's trying to clear waste from the brain. Pick one. Sleep is the higher priority job. A quick pass on the C tier, the stuff the internet obsesses over but matters less than most people think. Sauna and a warm shower before bed has a small effect which is inconsistent in my own data. Blue light blocker glasses, I tried them, and the literature is mixed at best. Red light therapy is marginal and expensive. Eye mask and mouth taping, fine if you like them, was not transformative for me. Specific tracker brands, Oura, Apple Watch, Whoop, whichever you trust, whichever floats your boat. The tracker matters, but the brand matters much less, and the way you read it matters more than either. Look at the trend over time, not the snapshot, and ask whether you're improving or not week over week, and how exercise, diet, alcohol, late dinners actually move the line. One last, somewhat contrarian point. Naps. Wellness culture treats them like something for babies and grandparents, but the research disagrees. Short naps, under 30 minutes, taken before 3 p.m. give real cognitive benefits without measurably hurting your night's sleep for most people. The sweet spot is about 15 to 20 minutes. I love a nap, and if I could take 2 a day, I would. The caveat is the average finding. If you nap and notice your bedtime drifting later or you can't fall asleep at night, the nap is costing more than it's giving, so just drop it. The 8-hour window at night is the priority. Naps are a bonus, not the substitute. So sleep is the master cheat code. When you sleep well, every other system in your life gets easier. Training, work, the kids, eating well, stress regulation, all of it. The point is the pattern and learning from that pattern. not the score on any single morning. So none of this beats the A tier. If you're doing 0 of the A tier and 3 of the C tier, the polish you're chasing is making no difference to a foundation that isn't there. So here's the part that most sleep content skips. The how. Knowing what to do is the easy part. Knowing it consistently is the whole game. 25 years running businesses taught me that relying on discipline alone never survives contact with real life. Late meetings happen, travel happens, sick kids happen. The trick isn't more discipline, it's building the protocol so that discipline doesn't have to show up every night it's running. Motivation is the worst thing to lean on, because by Tuesday of a hard week, your motivation is shattered. The behaviors you can count on are the ones you've engineered to happen without motivation. I engineer 3 things: environment, anchoring, and feedback. Environment. The phone is in the closet because environmental design beats willpower every time. And by the time I'm halfway across the bedroom to retrieve it, I've remembered I'm tired and the phone has lost. The system has to defeat the version of me at my worst, not the version that's already had a good night's sleep. Anchoring. My bedtime is bolted on to putting my kids to sleep. The kids going to sleep is the prompt, so there's no fresh decision to make. The no snooze alarm works the same way across the room. Gentle piano, get up when it goes off. Feedback. I wear an Oura ring most nights, and the value isn't in the score, it's in the morning data. I can see exactly what the late dinner or 2 beers cost me. Behavior change requires feedback. You don't have to use a ring. Just a quick check-in with yourself before coffee works too. The point is having a signal you can correlate with what you did yesterday. And one more, forgiveness. When you have a bad night, don't compound it with self-criticism. The bad night already happened. Note what caused it, adjust if you can, and move on. The protocol isn't held together by discipline, it's held together by design. If you're listening to me describe a 5:30 a.m. wake up and thinking this guy's insane, well, fair. The lark versus owl thing is real biology, not character. Roughly 30% of adults lean morning, 30% evening, and the rest flex in between. Forcing a true night owl on a lark schedule has a real cost. Researchers again call it social jet lag, and you carry the metabolic and mood penalty as long as you stay misaligned. We've put a 5-question chronotype quiz in the Sage site, link in the description. It's the validated morningness-eveningness questionnaire. Takes about a minute and gives you the version of the protocol that matches your wiring instead of mine. Same principle, just a different time. Honor the biology where you can, and fight it only where you have to. 2 quick caveats before we close. The I do 5 on 5 hours claim: genetic short sleepers exist, but the combined prevalence of the known mutations is well under 1%, possibly under 1 in 1,000. So statistically, you almost certainly aren't one of them. Remember Van Doggen, chronic sleep-deprived people don't recognize their own impairment. 2. Chronic insomnia. If you have it 3+ nights a week for 3+ months, this protocol is not your answer. CBTI outperforms sleep medications long-term, and it's available now as a digital therapeutic through something like Sleepio or Somrest. If you're on Ambien or a similar hypnotic long-term, don't stop cold turkey. Taper with your doctor and pair with CBTI. Around 13% of men and 6% of women aged 30 to 70 have moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea, and roughly 80% of cases are undiagnosed. The red flags are heavy snoring, your partner telling you that you stop breathing in your sleep, waking up gasping, morning headaches, or daytime sleepiness even after a full night in bed. If any of those are happening, please go get a sleep study before you try to optimize anything else. There's a part of you that wants to stay up. The part that says one more episode, the part that says I'll just finish this email, the part that already opened whatever social media app floats your boat, even though you'd promised yourself you wouldn't. Not drinking is a cheat code. Walking is a cheat code. Magnesium is a useful supplement, and yes, hugs from your wife and kids are cheat codes too. I'm 110% serious about that one. You can measure HRV before and after a real hug, and it moves. We don't talk about that one enough. But none of those cheat codes do much if you're sleeping 6 hours, because the cheat codes stack, and sleep sits underneath all of them. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Stop treating sleep like the thing you give up to have a day. Sleep is what makes the day work in the first place. When something in my life is going sideways now, the answer is almost always to just get a great night's sleep, and then look at it again. Cut your last caffeine at noon, set the bedroom under 70, and give yourself an 8-hour window in bed every single night. It's free, it costs nothing. Run it tonight. Change one thing and you'll feel the difference inside of a week. 3 things if any of this lands. 1, subscribe. We're building this channel one protocol at a time. 2, take the 5-question chronotype quiz in the description. It personalizes the protocol to your wiring instead of mine. 3, download the full Easy Mode Protocol PDF, also in the description. It too is free. Tape it to the wall next to the thermostat I just told you to set at 68. We're all just big 3-year-olds. Stop missing your naps, stop playing life on hard mode unnecessarily, and get to bed.